Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 56 of the On Air Advocate. We're at the On Air Advocate. We look to provide education, support, and empowerment for all of those with different abilities, mental and medical illnesses, and their caregivers. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Tammy Flynn, and I'm the host and producer of the On Air Advocate. And I am super excited you are here joining us this afternoon, or whether you are catching this on the replay. Now, as you know, we cover all different topics, and if you think any of these topics could be relevant or helpful for anybody, please hit the share button and share the love with others. Now, this morning, we just wrapped up our last series on adult and youth changing tables across the United States and the lack of, and now this afternoon, I'm so excited to kick off our new series. It is a 3-week series on mental health, and no one better than one of our guests that has been on before that I love. Maria Davis-Pierre is here. She is a licensed mental health counselor as well as an author and the founder of Autism in Black. So thank you, Maria, for being here with us.
I'm so happy to be here and happy to be kicking this off.
Because it's so needed. It's so needed. And like we've talked about, there's so many layers to this. And so I know that you are going to look kind of more at the aspect of how do we seek help before the breaking point that we get to, but then if we've already hit the breaking point, can we backpedal a little bit and can we still get the resources and the help that we need?
Yes.
So if you want to start, for those who haven't watched you on the show before, a little bit of background about yourself, and then we can kind of take a dive into this.
Sounds good. So yes, I am Maria. I'm a licensed mental health counselor in Florida. I own 2 private practices. One focuses on perinatal mental health, postpartum depression and anxiety for Black women. And the second one, my baby practice I love so much, Autism in Black, focuses on supporting Black parents who have an autistic child, supporting them through their autism journey, as well as providing marriage counseling to them. Because as a parent who has a child who is autistic, I understand how that dynamic can, kind of put our marriage on the back burner. So right. I want to make sure that, we're also thinking about our marriage and continue to make sure that foundation is good. And another thing that I always am an advocate for is self-care and being aware of our own mental health needs. So that is about me.
Well, in kicking this off, I think that so many of us, we have all these stressors in our life, and whether we're single, whether we are married, whether we have multiple children, whether we have no children, I think just even being in the world, turn on a news station, and I think that you could find yourself in some sadness just seeing what's going on all around us on a daily basis. And so when you work with your patients and, within that circle and groups of individuals, what are some of the things that you talk to them about as indicators and red flags that you start seeing, where you start to notice that there is something different and you're not really sure, how to go about seeking the help that you need? Or you might need to backpedal because maybe I jumped a step.
No problem. One thing I always let my clients know, regardless of where they're at and, their background, is that mental health issues do not discriminate. Okay. So you always have to make sure that you are paying very close attention to your mental health. We're always going to the doctor when something's amiss and we're going to get those physicals and things like that. We need to put that same effort into our mental health, and it is such a stigma in the world about mental health, and I'm not crazy and this and that, but I tell all my clients all the time, therapy is for the sane people too. So, don't be afraid, don't be embarrassed to go and seek help, because sometimes having that non-judgmental person is extremely helpful, and it can kind of make you see things differently in your life. So, I always say make sure you are aware of your own mental health by knowing your red flags. So knowing what triggers you to get to certain points of depression, anxiety, things like grief, loss, things like that. So knowing those red flags and knowing those triggers and being aware of how your body is responding. So, we all have kind of a baseline, a certain amount of sadness, depressive symptoms, anxiety symptoms are normal in everybody. But when it starts to interfere with your day-to-day living, as far as, I'm able to function and go to work, but when I get home, I do nothing. I don't want to do anything that I used to enjoy. I just want to kind of lay around and, be in kind of a slump. That's something different. That's something that's not normal for you. So that would be a red flag. That would be an indicator that something is amiss.
Right.
As far as anxiety as well, now I'm feeling anxious. Like I know a lot of women who have a child and now they're like, okay, I'm anxious. Yes, we're anxious as new parents, but when it's like consuming you to the point of you cannot function and do anything.
Right. You're so worried.
Consumed and worried and nervous about everything revolving around being a new parent. Okay, then that we know is now over the baseline. So we need to kind of reel that back in and check on that. So those are kind of the things that you need to watch out for. That now my baseline is no more. I'm here now, and I'm usually here. So something is amiss.
Right.
And I need to check in and see what that's about, And
now I know we talked about mental health check. Now, is that something, can you actually have your regular primary do kind of or is that more you checking yourself, or is that actually protocol for being able to have like a mental health kind of check?
Now, most people might not know this. My husband is a physician. He's been on here, Dr. Davis-Pierre, and it is protocol for them to, when they're doing physicals and things like that, if they're noticing something amiss, it is protocol for them to then go through a series of questions to do kind of a mental check. Now, are we all doing that? I can probably tell you no. So we have to make sure that we are doing that for ourselves as well.
Right.
As much as when something is amiss within your body physically and you're like, okay, now it's time for me to go to the doctor, you need to know as far as mentally, okay, something is amiss, I need to be seeking out therapy services. So yes, your primary can, and should be doing these things. And if you, a lot of times your primary is your first point of contact. So, I'm seeing my primary, I tell my primary these things, but they're not able to kind of treat that the way a therapist would treat those things because, they only have 15 minutes with you, 30 minutes at most, and you see them, you get what you need to get done physically, and then you're on your way. So with a therapist, you can have more in-depth conversation about what is going on and what's amiss and process through those things.
Well, I just actually went for my annual checkup yesterday, and it was the first time that I got like a 2-page form before I even saw her that started to dive into all these questions about sadness and about how you are feeling. And so I had never received something 2 pages long, before. And I thought to myself, this must be a movement of some kind that doctors for the annuals, checkups overall are trying to catch some of these mental health issues at a sooner point.
Yes,
most waiting until they get out of control.
Yes, they're supposed to have those protocols in place because they know that they are the first point of contact. So if they could catch it early and get somebody the help they need, a lot of things, won't, I would say, get to the point of where it's now endangering someone's life. Because we can get to that point.
Right. And now for the self-care element of it, what are some things that you promote? I know that you just recently, or this month, are releasing a book or released already on self-care. What is kind of your campaign around self-care for individuals as a whole to keep mental health, at the top bar all the time? What are some of those strategies and tools that you talk about within that book and, within your own model of what you feel, self-care really can do for each individual personally?
My personal campaign with self-care is that one, self-care is a priority. You should not be made to feel like it is something that is selfish or anything like that. Self-care is something we all need, and it's something that if we're not taking care of ourselves, we cannot go about taking care of anybody else or doing our jobs to our fullest. We have to make sure that we are a priority in our own lives. So a lot of time that comes within being comfortable with who you are, checking on your self-esteem levels and making sure that you are okay with who you are, and confronting some of those things that cause uneasiness and anxiousness within us, and taking the time out to know, okay, if I reach my limit, I can ask for help, knowing that it's okay to ask for help with certain things. So all of those elements are part of taking care of yourself, and it's something that you should be doing daily. You should be taking care of self daily. And a lot of people think that self-care costs money, on massages and things like that. Self-care can be a simple, I'm going to take a 30-minute break and read a book. I'm going to take a 30-minute nap. I'm going to take a 30-minute shower, bath. I'm going to listen to music.
Right.
So all of those things cost no money. So self-care does not cost money. Some self-care items do, and some you could just do in your house for free, and nobody wiser. So it's something we should be doing daily.
And I think we talked about that for those that have already joined the On Air Advocate community. We did a segment, and I think it was interesting, Andrea, she sits in her car, has that time just in her car to herself where, whether it's 30 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour. And, Dawn has her certain tea and stretching in the morning. And so all the things that we talked about that night for our personal self-care, none of those things cost any money. And so I think sometimes people with the labels that are out there, they think, oh, for me to be able to do this, I need to have to go to the Bahamas, or I need to go on a trip. And I think that would be the same thoughts with seeing a counselor. A lot of times people think that they're going to be told what to do or how to change, when sometimes it's just having a person that has no connection just to listen. It doesn't mean that they have to have any answers. It's just another person out there to have ears to be able for you to release some of this outside of you. Now, as being a licensed mental health counselor and an advocate, because you're a very good advocate as well for your kids and as for adults, what would you tell openly patients, clients that are looking for someone in their area for help, a counselor, things that they should really look for pairing up? Because I've told people over time, I'm like, just because you meet a counselor doesn't mean it's the right counselor for you. Personalities, have to fit. So what are some of those recommendations when people are looking for?
Most therapists that I know have where you can have a 15-minute, 30-minute consultation with them and talk to them. So I would always recommend taking that option first and seeing, because a therapist wants to make sure that they are also a good fit for you. So that's a lot of times why they have those, because they want to make sure it's going to work.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you do take that option, and you're looking for things like, okay, am I comfortable with this person? Are the things this person is saying, does it fit for me? A lot of times there are different techniques and theories that therapists, run their therapy by. So you want to make sure that those techniques fit
harmonious.
Who you are, yes. So you don't want to get in there and be like, okay, this is not a fit for me. This is not something I'm into. You should know that, okay, then I can tell that therapist, okay, this is not a good fit for me, and they can give you some recommendations, or go and find another therapist on your own. I never want anybody to think that once they've gotten the therapist, this is it for me, I need to stick it through, because that is not going to do anything for your mental health as well if you're not comfortable in that atmosphere. So know that you can go and figure out what is going to work for you, like a lot of times we get recommendations from friends. That may be the best therapist for your friend, but for you, that may not work. So you can know that, okay, you know what, it's working out for you over there. It's not working out for me. I'm going to go find somebody else. And that is completely okay. And I know a lot of people who are in such anxious or depressive states don't feel comfortable going into an office. Please know that there is online therapy, okay, where you can see your therapist in a platform like Tammy and
Right.
I are doing on Zoom. There's those options. There's things like text messaging apps and things like that. So know that, there are many different avenues for you to
Mhm.
seek a professional and get the help that you need.
Right. And I would say that there is no therapist in the world that wants to see someone that they know that you guys are not harmonious together. I mean,
Exactly.
especially when you're talking about personal things the whole time that you're there, and,
Hmm.
strategies and whatnot, who would want to do that to themselves either? So I
Yeah,
think it goes both ways.
it does.
You want to feel as if, that person, is really feeling,
Hmm.
what you're going through and able to absorb some of it. And you have to be harmonious, I think, together to do that.
Most
So,
definitely. And your therapist should be checking in with you, as the sessions progress anyway, to see, how's this working for you? Is this something that you're not enjoying? Is something that I should, focus more on? So, there a lot of times we check in to make sure that, you're getting what you need out of, coming in and paying your money and seeing your therapist, because it's your therapy. And that's what I like to tell people. I'm the therapist, so this isn't my therapy, this is your therapy. It's what you want and what you need out of here. Okay, I'm just the expert in the clinical skills, I'm not the expert in your life. So when you
right.
come in there, you need to know that I'm the expert in my life and I know what I need, and this is the person that's going to kind of guide me in the sense of the direction I want to go in. Because a lot of
Right.
times, people come into therapy and think I'm going to tell you A, B, and C, and you do these things and everything's going to be okay.
No.
That's just not how it how it works.
Right.
Because
It's a lot
A,
of self work.
exactly, A, B, and C may work for this person, but it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So that's why therapy is tailored to who you are as an individual. That 1 hour you're spending with that person, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, is tools for you to take and then use in the real world. So it's something that you have to be working on daily to know that, okay, this is going to work. And a lot of times I tell people, when you first come into therapy, it may get worse before it get better, because you are
Right.
talking about things that you've suppressed that bring up a lot of emotion for you. So
Right.
know that in the beginning you're going to be feeling all these emotions and it's going to be like, oh my God, this is overwhelming. But stick through it, because then you're going to be learning the skills to be dealing and coping with all of those emotions.
Right. And I think that leads us into, as you're advocating for yourself, finding yourself that right fit, in life in general, setting boundaries. And I know that you talk about that as well,
Mhm.
on, the boundaries we need to set for ourselves, and, demoting people from our life, eliminating them,
Yes.
cutting them off of the payroll,
Mhm.
that sort of thing. Can you just lend a little bit on that?
Yes, boundary setting is for you personally. It is not for anybody else. So if I'm setting a boundary with somebody, it's
Mhm.
because that my core values are now being triggered. So I have a set of values that I believe in, and this is how it works for me. And if anybody is infringing on those boundaries, then you can let them know, hey, this is not something that, I like. It bothers me, things like that. And they can either respect it or not. So if they respect it, fine, cool, we're going on about our relationship.
Right.
But if not, then you then have to decide, how is this dynamic now going to work? What am I going to do if somebody is now infringing on my boundaries? So am I going to give them a warning and see if they can change, or am I going to now lessen our contact, or am I just going to cut them off totally? There's many things that you can do within boundaries, but know that the boundaries are there for your own mental well-being. And a lot of times people think that, I can't set boundaries with my family because they're my family. No, we can set boundaries with whoever we want to, because it's
Right.
about your mental health. Why am I going to want to be around somebody that triggers me all the time? Somebody that makes me sad all the time, somebody that makes me anxious all the time. That's not good for your own mental health. So know that, no is a complete statement. I can say no and that's it. I don't have to offer any other explanation for that. I
Right.
don't have to back it up, because it's my no. So know that you can do those things and you don't have to say anything else. No means no. I don't have to do it. So,
Right. And I
those,
think that's so valuable because that's so hard for so many people,
yes.
in so many facets of life, even as moms and
Mhm.
dads, like, I'm going to be the baseball coach. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be there. And then you become so overwhelmed by all the things you said yes to when
Yes.
simply it's not that you don't want to do it or you wouldn't like to take in it, but, our human bodies, brains, I mean, we only can really take in
Take it.
so much, have so many
Yeah,
tabs open at the same time
exactly.
before you're going to need to hit the escape button.
Exactly. And you don't want to get to that point. And I'm making it sound easy, but believe me, it's not. There's times when even I have a problem saying no because I don't want to disappoint the person and I want to help the
Right.
person, but I have to know for me personally, I have to say no if I want to take care of self. So even
Right.
though I'm making it sound easy with the tips, please know that it is a struggle. So, it takes time, it takes practice to get to those things.
Mm-hmm.
But once you set the boundary and you set what you said, stay true to your word, because if you say no and then you go back on it, then the person's going to be like, okay, she doesn't really mean no when she says no anyway, so I can kind of finesse
Right.
my
Continue
way
to
to
ask.
exactly. So if you want to make sure your boundaries are sticking, say something that you can follow through with. Okay, be
Right.
realistic with yourself to know that, okay, I can follow through with this, because if they know they can finesse their way around it, then that's going to become a cycle, and that's not something you want to be in.
Right. And I know that we also discussed, sometimes we get lost in the fact of, depression, grief, anxiety. I think a lot of those things, would you agree that they all feed off of each other?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously as we're grieving things,
Yes.
that depression kind of comes as a sidebar to that. And sometimes when we're in those depressive states and we allow ourselves to not leave the house, not do things anymore, well, then we build anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
because now we haven't done something in so long and
Yes.
now we have to redo it again, and that builds it. So as a counselor and a therapist, how do you help people with that cycle? You kind of break that cycle up,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of break it down for them when they think about the grieving process and how those other things attribute into their and
Yeah.
tackling that.
With the grief is, a funny thing. And I tell people all the time, if you're dealing with grief, you need to be seeing somebody that is specializing in grief, that knows grief. Because a lot of times, we feel like there's a time limit on our grief, and there is no time limit on your grief. You are allowed to grieve as long as you want. You've lost somebody that meant something to you. You've lost it. And grief doesn't just go with death. You've lost a job that meant something to you. You lost a
Mm-hmm.
house that meant something to you. So, grieve that for as long as you need to, and know that your life has now changed. So
Mm-hmm.
your day-to-day living is now going to change. You have to figure out now a different way of being, a different way of living. So, with coming in and helping someone with their grieving and their loss, you want to, one, help them become aware of their own cycle, aware of, what's happening to me right now, and knowing that it's validating those feelings, and knowing that, okay, my world was just shooken up. So yes, all of these things that I'm feeling is normal, but now I want to be able to still do the day-to-day things that I need to do to
Mm-hmm.
function in life. So being able to confront those things and cope through those things, and learning the tools to deal with those things, because you could be walking down the street just fine, having a lovely day, you're laughing, you're talking, you could hear a song or smell a scent, it triggers you, and you're thinking right back to that person or whatever you lost, and it can
Mm-hmm.
disrupt your day. Feel it's okay to feel those feelings. You don't have to feel like, okay, no, I can't deal with it. Feel those feelings, because those are real feelings for you.
Right.
Cope through those feelings. So
Right.
that's what I tell people. It's a different way of living. You're not going to just get over it. You're going to find a different way of being, a different way of living.
Right, right. And what is your new normal? And I think when we talk about grief, and you're so accurate on that, grief, a lot of times people, when they hear the word, they think of grief and the loss of a loved one,
Mm-hmm.
a loss of someone that way. I feel like grief is one of those things that plays into every single facet of our life. And both myself and you being mothers of children that have special needs and medical conditions. I mean, I do a whole seminar just on the grief of that, because you are mourning the loss of what you thought was going to be. And now this is a lifelong walk. And, you know, for so many that end up in a car accident or something happens and their world, their body changes, their whole normal of what they've done forever. So I do think, and jobs, you know, all of that. And so I feel like grief is the component to a lot of those other filtering downs of then that depression comes. I had this job. This is something I loved. Now I can't do it anymore. You know, so on every level of our life, whether it be in family, friends, you know, health conditions, jobs, and all of that. But knowing, I think the biggest thing is that people think that sometimes they see people, and I don't know if you could add to this, like social media has really made it that everyone thinks like, oh my God, they have such a life, you know, and this is so great. And look at what they're doing. And if we're all realistic, we all have grief. We all have pain. We all have struggles. There isn't anyone that doesn't deal with something on some level every day. And would you add anything to that? Do you think that social media has changed so many things?
I completely agree. I mean, social media can be great, but at the same time, it can really, really be not so great, is how I'll put it. You know, it's powerful. It is extremely powerful because we're able to take snapshots of our lives, the good parts of our lives, and upload it, and people are like, oh my God, she's doing this, and this, and you may be crying, you know, as you're uploading that picture, or you may be going through something as you're uploading that picture, because you're trying to put on the facade that everything is okay. And I tell people to take social media with a grain of salt. You know, you're only looking at a portion of somebody's life. You know, there's a meme that goes around that says, you know, I see what you're posting on Facebook, but I do know you in real life. So to know that those things are not adding up, you know, so to know that, hey, it's okay. Not everybody is perfect. And what you're seeing on social media is just a portion of that person's life. Like I said, you know, mental health, grief, loss, pain is not just for certain people. It does not discriminate.
Right.
We are all dealing with those things, you know, and we all deal with them differently. But so just know that when you're looking at that, to say that, okay, she has it so great, you don't know what that person is going through. So the comparison, you know, I tell people, don't fall for the comparison, because that is going to set you up to spiral even more. So you don't want to, you want to just deal with what you're going through and not compare yourself to Susie and Sally and Billy, because they're dealing with their own stuff.
Right.
So don't worry about you, focus on you and what you need to do for your mental health.
Right. And I think that this whole series that I'm starting for these 3 weeks is opening up the door for everyone in every single facet to realize that we are all real people. And it's okay. I just saw a post that's going to make me cry today. I told you I'm on like the day of crying today. It was a post, The Mighty put out an article, and they put up a big sign, and it says, it's okay to not be okay.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's okay. Like we all have those days. We all have those times. And we need to, you know, seek the things that are going to help us through those times, realizing that no matter what we do, we all are going to have different times of emotions and struggles and all of that. But how can we do it in a healthy way? And how can we get our world to accept that, and for it to not be such a stigma? Yeah.
That's something that, you know, we fight daily as therapists and as advocates for mental health, is the stigma that is associated with mental health. You know, people always have these terms because we use them so loosely in conversation. If we're seeing somebody and they're different, oh, that person's crazy. If somebody is happy and then you see them, they're sad, oh, they're bipolar. Or, you know, we're so geared to just give people diagnosis when you're not even licensed to do those things.
Right.
You know, we're using these terms so freely that we've desensitized ourselves to what it really means to have a bipolar diagnosis, to have an anxiety diagnosis, to have a diagnosis of major depressive disorder. So, you know, we've desensitized ourselves to these things that when somebody is dealing with them, we can't even relate on a certain level. It's like, okay, no, we're not going to talk about that. That's taboo. You keep that over there. I don't really care to know about all this that you're going
Right.
through. You know, we're going to talk about the good stuff, not the bad stuff. So no, you have
Right.
to address those feelings. And we as a society have to be more, I'm sorry, I cannot think today.
We both are on the same page.
Yeah, but we have to be more sensitive to the
Yes.
needs of others, and to know that, okay, it's okay for them to not have a good day. It's okay for somebody not to have a good day. So let them have their not good day, support them through that, rather than being like, okay, pick it up, let's go, you know, man up, do this, do that. No, be supportive in that moment. Let them have their moment. Let them feel their feelings. You know, so used to just packing it down. Then we have a blow up and people are looking at you crazy because you just asked for the salt. So, you know, we want to address those issues and confront them, you know, right when they happen. So feel your feelings. It's okay to do that. And as a society, we should allow people to feel their feelings.
Right. And realize that if somebody isn't talking about something, you have no idea the journey and the struggle that they are going through on a daily basis. You're not walking in their shoes. And all of that judgment, our judgy world of all of that, I don't think helps. And so, you know, I hope over these 3 weeks, as we have some amazing personal stories and journeys of, you know, individuals that have went through so many layers from, you know, different medical conditions, to show that we're all real people. And, you know, we need to keep that self-care and working on ourselves, and knowing that we're not wrong for wanting help. We're not wrong for wanting somebody to talk to. Doesn't make you crazy. It doesn't make any of those things. It makes you actually less crazy person. You're the person who recognizes, I need help. I need help with this. I think that takes you to a whole different level, because recognition is that first step. And if you're able to recognize whether it's a friend, a coworker, or a therapist, you know, somebody to talk to, like, I need this, you're at that first step.
Exactly. And I so recommend that you have a support circle, as I call it, of people to lean on during different times. You know, this is a person I can call, and vent to, and know that they're just going to listen. This is the person I can call and talk to, and they're going to help me figure this out. So, you know, those are the different type of people that you need in your circle. There are many people who go to therapists just to talk through something. They don't necessarily have a diagnosis, you know, or anything. They just want to talk it through, and they want to have that person listen and you know, maybe help them, guide them in a certain way, and see a different perspective, and be like, oh, okay, I never thought about that, and use those tools in the real world. So don't just think you need to have a mental health diagnosis to go to therapy. No, that's not how it works. You know, we're here for many reasons, and I implore you to go and see a therapist, you know, at least once, to see how it is.
Right. I did for many years, between my upbringing and marriage and all of my different trials and tribulations. I spent many years in going in and finding the right counselors, but they would all say the same thing. They're like, Tammy, you just like kind of talk yourself right around the circle, but that's what I needed to do. I wasn't looking for an answer from anybody. And some people would say, well, that's a waste of time, or that's a waste of money. No, me to be able to clear it out of my head, go full circle in the conversation, brought me to a healthier mental health place. And to sometimes have them interject, oh, have you ever thought of this? Well, no, I haven't. But maybe I'll try it.
Exactly. Like, oh, okay. Well,
okay. Yeah. I am a big fan of that, a big fan of finding support groups. And I mean, I know for those that can't, you know, leave their house, those that are also caregivers, or we have like the Chronic Connection that has been on the show before. That's more of a support party area for youth that has chronic illness, that doesn't get to leave the house. We don't even think of that. You know, if you can't get out, we have so much stuff that's online right now that we can hop on with people this way and have that. But just know that, you know, if you need help there, you know, if you need help, we all need help. It's there everywhere we turn.
Yeah. Don't be afraid or embarrassed to reach out, to know that, okay, I need this help, and how are people going to look at me? No, do what you need to do for yourself. Reach out to a therapist, reach out to a friend and say, hey, I need to help finding a therapist right now. You know, I'm not in such a good place.
Mm-hmm.
do those things and don't be embarrassed by those things. Don't feel guilty that you can't do it all, because nobody can do it all. So reach out and get the help and the support that you need.
And if you are kind of in wrapping up, if you're a family member and or a very good friend to someone and you see that they are having these struggles, obviously if they're over the age of 18, they can make those decisions for themselves, whether they want to see someone or not. But if they're in that mental health kind of crisis, situation, or you see that they're really struggling, what would be just a few tools of encouragement or words of, wisdom that you would give to those people to help that individual?
First of all, approach it delicately, because, we are on the outside looking in. So a lot of times we can notice things with individuals before they notice them within themselves. So approach that delicately and just tell them, come from a place of love of what you're noticing and that you're seeing, and that you want to support them through this. They may not be ready for therapy at that time, and okay, that's fine. That's their choice. Support them through that. Don't make them feel like if you don't go to therapy, then this and this and this is going to happen to you, because you don't know what's going to happen to that person. And that can kind of make the situation worse.
So fuel the fire. Yeah,
exactly. You want to support them where they are now. As therapists, we all say we're going to meet you where you're at. So meet them where they are at that point in their life. Now, if it is getting to a place that it is, unsafe for their life or yours, and you have to set boundaries within yourself to know that I've done what I can, and now I have to set the boundary within myself. And that goes back to talking about what I was saying about setting those boundaries for yourself. But a lot of times, be a place of support for that person. Listen to, what they're saying and what they're going through, and try not to offer advice or we can fix it or we can do that, because a lot of times we just want somebody to listen to us and have that support from a non-judgmental standpoint. Be like, okay, yeah, I'm not having a good day, because a lot of times we're so conditioned to say, oh, how's your day going today? It's good. No, my day is bad. This is happening. My children are not sleeping, things like that. So, listen to them, actually listen, and then, come from that place. So we always want to come from a delicate place, a place of support, non-judgment, and not be too pushy with what we want to see for other people, because we don't have control over how somebody lives their life. We don't have control over how we live our lives. So we need to remember that as well. We have to respect the decisions of those people.
Yes, this is our temple. We need to take care of it.
Yes. You should be your top one priority.
With that, now in wrap up, I know that, like we had talked about, you have a self-care book. Now, did that release yet?
It is. The pre-order start on Monday. There's going to be a link on all my social media platforms and my website to start. There was a little issue with the shipping, but I won't go into that. Self-care. But pre-orders start on Monday, so it is a 52 affirmation guided journal to take you through the year. You do one affirmation a week. You focus on that affirmation and what it means to you. There's some different skills that you'll learn within that week, tools to use regarding referring back to that affirmation. It should take you through a year. You can always refer back to it, because we know that this year I may, be into this, and next year I may be doing something else. So it's something that you can always use as a tool to practice self-care for yourself. So those will be coming out. Pre-orders will be starting on Monday for that.
Wonderful. And you can drop that link below this live, right?
Yes, I will.
Okay. And your website and everything, we can put that below as well. Perfect. Well, I thank you, Maria, for being here to kick off this next 3 weeks, which are going to be amazing. I hope that you guys tune in, for the whole series, or if you don't catch it on the live, make sure that you catch it on the replay. And know it's okay to not be okay. And we're all here. We're all trying to get through life. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're all here in the same, in the same spot. And so, hopefully more of the world will start to open their eyes that, we're here to support each other and to love each other and to help each other get through, versus pointing fingers and having judgment about,
everything somebody chooses to do in life.
Right, right. So on that, thank you so much, Maria, for spending part of your afternoon with us. And I thank you guys all for watching the On Air Advocate. If you would like any more of our tutorial videos on YouTube, our podcast, or any other information, go to the onairadvocate.com. Also, if you have not joined our private community where we can chat every day and throw out questions on a regular basis, please go to the top of the Facebook page, hit the visit group tab, which is blue, and that will take you right over to the On Air Advocate community, or you can search it as well on Facebook. So on that note, thank you so much, Maria, and everybody have a fabulous weekend.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hold on.